the PCAM Podcast, recorded at Wave Studios, a sound design and mixing facility with a worldwide reputation for audio excellence. The PCAM Podcast. Hi there, it's Blair here again with the rest of the PCAM Committee, Simon, Augusta, Chris, Sally and Tony, and we're here to do another PCAM podcast, and this time we're going to be talking about how to get into the industry, which is something that a lot of people ask us about when they're just graduated from university or thinking about getting into this career. Does anyone have anything to start us off on how people might think about getting involved?
I tell you what, I'll start you off. I think that one of the things that, there are, as we all know to our cost, more and more people, because of what we've talked about, there's no barrier to entry in terms of the cost of equipment, or not like there used to be. So obviously more and more people want to get into it. They perceive it as a good place to be. And the fact of the matter is that creates an awful lot of noise. Yeah. And I think if you are going to get into it, you need to find a way to cut through the noise and make your voice heard in a distinct manner. There's no specific, if we knew the answer to this, it's like if you knew the lottery numbers, it would be great. There's no specific way in which you can do this. People have got to find their own way. But those people who succeed will succeed if they find a way of cutting through the noise and making themselves distinct.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I mean, it's really hard to sell to people whose living it is to sell. They're not really interested. They're also inundated with people every day ringing them. I think producers, most agency producers, get at least 40 calls a week from music companies. So they're kind of tired. I think
those are all from you, aren't they?
It's also important to know who you're selling to, because a lot of people, again, I get a lot of sort of helpline calls about this, and people don't understand where they're meant to sell their music to. So it's important to know that you're selling to either the producers or the creatives, or you're selling to directors companies. Rather than just sort of pepper your stuff anywhere, you should try and target it to people who might be interested in what you're doing. And you can find out all details of people, like either on the web, or there are plenty of books like Creative Handbook and stuff like that, which still, I think, exists around the
File
place.
FX.
File FX, another place who list all the
producers
and creatives in agencies.
So it's about targeting what you do.
I suspect, though, I mean, I don't know, but I think most people that get into the business get in via a friend.
Yes.
And it's the kind of lucky break, bring in the right place at the right time. Having said that, you can try and be in as many places at the right time as possible.
Yeah, and that definitely works, that too, because many a time one's rung somebody up and they say, it's funny you should ring now because I've actually just got a job, and you find yourself in on something which you wouldn't have normally got.
Yeah.
One thing I always recommend to anyone that's actually studying music at one of the gazillions of courses that seem to be churning out postgrad music students is please, if there is a film department in your college, go and make some friends. Always try and get to be making soundtracks for any student filmmakers because those are relationships that that can last a lifetime and can be career forming. So.
Yeah, definitely. And when you sort of first come out of university, I think it's, you are going to be sort of riding off the coattails of your peers for a certain amount of time, and that will take a long time to happen because they are not going to be producing lots of adverts because they've just come out of university as well, and you really need to find a way to sort of sustain yourself and get to a point where everyone is at the same level where you're starting to work on stuff. So perhaps then we can talk about music agencies rather than going straight to the producers themselves, and talk about that as a route for getting into writing for stuff.
One of the things, a lot of people phone up what they consider to be established music production companies and say, I'm really looking for somebody to represent me.
Right.
And really, I have to say that my advice generally is that if you can do it yourself, do it yourself. Because if you're going somewhere with existing relationships and existing commitments to a roster of people, you're going to be bottom of the food chain. You're going to be picking up the dregs. You're going to be making up the numbers. Now, it may be good to make up the numbers, and I can see why, if you can get a job from Augusta or from Tony or from one of us, that even if you know that you're not in with much of a shout, the very fact that you're doing it at all is a good thing, and I think that's true too. Sure. But, what you've got to think about is, what is a production company going to do? It's going to actually put together a show reel, present itself in a professional and attractive manner, and go and talk to the people who can give them the work. Well, which one of those things can't you do for yourself?
So perhaps, sorry.
Well, I think too, I said to a lot of people that it's quite good being in a couple. Right. Because doing things on your own is actually always quite hard, and motivating yourself. And so I know a lot of people who, if you can get together with another writer, or even somebody who thinks they can produce you, you do better than going to an agency, I think, because the two of you, between each other, can motivate each other and sort of find your feet on it.
I need to do that. I need to find a friend. So if there's anyone out there,
I can vouch for that. I'm because I started. We started as a partnership, and yeah, I think it's not the kind of industry that you really want to be solo. If you, it does help to have moral support, because it can be a little bit thankless, to say the least.
A failure is only half a failure.
Well, if you're having a good time, I mean, it just leads on from everything else that we've said. If you're enjoying it and you're writing things that you like and not doing crap work in your own estimation, then you're enjoying yourself.
It also expands your writing, I think, having somebody else, because you can get very self-indulgent sitting there in your garret writing these opuses. If there's somebody else there, you bounce off each other, you have different musical ideas, and it can work extremely well.
Yeah.
I think there's a complete other way of looking at it as well, which is, I think you touched on this actually in a previous podcast. I think if you have a really unique and interesting sound, then people will find you. I would, one way of going at it is, go and get some ads, do your own soundtracks to them, schlep them about, send them to music companies, send them to agencies saying, look at me, I can do a soundtrack for an ad. But actually, if you are a very creative person and you've got interesting ideas and you've got a really cool sound, then you can work on your own projects. Most young people today are extremely creative about promoting themselves, promoting their work, and are out there doing stuff. And if you can make enough noise doing something original and interesting, then music production companies and agencies even may just come and find you.
Look at the hits on YouTube. I mean, if you get something interesting going, that can be a way, and as any other way.
I think you've got to realise, if you're starting out, that this is an industry that craves the new. It constantly needs to sort of have new blood in it. So actually, to a certain extent, people like me and Tony and those of us who've been around time are actually, in some respects, although we've got a lot of experience and a track record and have done a lot of stuff, we're slightly almost at a disadvantage when confronted with a bunch of people who have the shock of the new. We want, it's like the Vampire Queen. I need new blood, bring me. But I think that also the other thing which I think is something you need to think about is that, the old school way of having a show reel and schlepping it around town is all very well. But the problem with that, you need a legitimate reason to keep yourself, where possible, in people's minds, because it's all about being front of mind. Yeah. And if you're the person they think of when a music opportunity comes up, you're the person that's going to get the call or the email. The problem is, you can't just sort of send them a link to an ad and then send them another link saying, wasn't that a really great ad? Do you want to watch it again? Or whatever. So I think it's important to sort of diversify what you do, keep producing stuff. It might not all be music, but keep having things that, without being a stalker, and that's another thing to avoid, it's a fine line between being persistent and being a pain in the neck, and keep finding ways to introduce yourself to the person, so that you stand a chance of being in their mind when the opportunity arises.
And try to do that in person as much as possible.
Well, you know what? Actually, a lot of people really like you can get great relationships with people you've never met on email. And the nice thing, although it's a pain, the nice thing about email is that it gives people a place to hide. They don't have to deal with it straight away. They don't have to make a decision on the phone. They don't have to say no. They can actually, they can actually think about it. And, I'm sure we've all got this, relationships with people that you don't really know, but you've got a great sort of jokey thing going on with the occasional email, or even if it's somebody you know on Facebook with the occasional thing. And you notice, I notice on Facebook the number of people who always check what I say and like it, almost whatever it is. And you think, wow, that person is paying attention to what I'm saying, and I'm in their mind because they're checking it.
Is that your mum?
mostly my mum. Yeah.
I've got a few little tips as well that I tend to give people who are just trying to get into the industry, which I think maybe you have touched on, but I tend to get turned off. I get a load of people emailing me every day, every week. I get composers reaching out. And I tend to switch off immediately if I've got people saying I can do anything. You know, I'm really versatile. I can do all different styles of music. I just think, well, that means you're probably just doing pastiche of everything, and it's not really, you know, don't need that really. I want experts. I want people
Character,
I want people who are really nuts about doing one particular thing. I'd much prefer that and have someone that's, you know, really, really extreme and interesting and into something and passionate about what they do. I think there are loads of misconceptions about advertising music, and I think there is this idea that you've just got to be able to do anything, and I think it's completely wrong. And then the other thing that always switches me off completely is people saying, you know, I'll work for nothing. Just give me a demo. I'll do free demos for you. And we've touched on that before, but I'm just going to raise it again because I think it is a really important point. If you're trying to get into the industry and you're trying to get work, that doesn't mean to say that you have to work for nothing.
Yeah, and in defence of music production companies, I think you got to be realistic about what your strengths are. If you want to sit at home in your garret and write music, and you're passionate about that, and the idea of actually trying to network or via Facebook, email, or actually going to see people, you find that abhorrent, then, you know,
don't put yourself through it.
Don't do it. You know, go and see music production companies, and you know, I know that I will listen to nearly enough for everything that comes through the door. You know, it may take me a couple of months, but I'll definitely listen to it.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think I have to defend the position of music production companies as well. I think we do a lot of the slog work that I know certainly our composers really can't face and don't want to be dealing with, and they don't want to be talking to people in ad agencies, and they don't want to be having to sell themselves and promote themselves, and you know, it's really tough to do that and be really creative.
I agree, but I would say, and following on from what you're saying, one of the things that if you are starting out on your own or whatever, and you're presenting it yourself to anybody, whether it's a production company or an agency, you've got to be professional. You know, CDs with splodgy ink, you know, scrawled straight on them, or you know, some crappy business card or no business card or some horrible, you know, website, whatever, just doesn't cut it. You know, again, something I say to people I'm talking to, you know, what you've got to realise is that an agency or whoever it is could use you or me. Why would they use you when they could use me? Now, I'm not saying that because they never will, but it's the question you've got to ask yourself. Why will they use you and not me? Come up with a good answer, and they might well use you and not me.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I'm a big fan of the, you know, meeting people in person and stuff, and I found that going along to seminars, you know, whether they're PCAM seminars or whether they're held by BASCA or PRS, etc., they're a great place to meet other composers, certainly, and occasionally other people that might be able to give you work, maybe not as often work, but they are people that you're going to be able to network with, and they might bring you in on a job that you have a particular skill that then they can use. Other events which aren't necessarily music based, which are more, you know, to do with like film and stuff like that, they're worth going along to and just trying to meet lots of people as well. So that can be a more sort of social aspect.
I'd absolutely agree with that, and I think that the social events that PCAM has run and will continue to run are a great opportunity to meet with other composers and music production companies, and I've certainly met a number of really interesting composers at those events, and you know, it's just a very relaxed.
Yeah, especially the seminar series that we hold occasionally. That's a great way to learn more about stuff because it's very educational as well. We're getting some great speakers. They're often, you know, really experienced in their field, and they're people that you can network with and speak to as well. Yeah. Great. Well, I think we're coming to the end of our allotted time again. So thank you very much for listening as always. Big wave to wave, everybody. Hashtag wave to wave on Twitter. And speaking of Twitter, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, or you can find us on the website at pcam.co.uk. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon.
The PCAM Podcast.